Macca's Guides.
Hey, what's up guys? Mac here playing Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain. This is a continuation of our S-Rank walkthrough, Episode 9, Back Up, Back Down. One of the, if not the hardest S-Rank in the game, in my opinion. There's a few reasons for this. Number one, the thing you're going to need before we even get into this, you're probably going to want to get a majority of the way through the game so that you have really good equipment, you have a lot of upgrades, you have Photon Extraction Cargo number 2, you have a grenade launcher and a rocket launcher that's decently powered. You also have to have the ability to call in tanks and stuff to supply drop vehicles to yourself. And all of those things are going to be kind of required and able to do this strategy. And without these things as a strategy, this is a very, very hard mission because it's quite fast-paced, and there's a few things going on, and I'll explain them as we get into them. One of the reasons this is so hard is because it's such a long mission. It's almost 20 minutes in its entirety, and there's no checkpoints, number one. Number two, there's a lot of waiting, and then if you do screw up, all the action kind of happens at the end. So if you do have to restart your checkpoint, you restart all the way at the beginning. And there's a few things going on. There's a lot of game mechanics that I will be explaining that you'll probably be using for the first time in this mission. Number one thing you have to realize is there's a 15-minute timer on the left-hand side, and you have to kill at least 7 or all 7 of the tanks that are passing by, or the targets, in order to be able to trigger the ending of this mission that you need to get so that you can get enough points to get an S rank. Hopefully that made sense. But basically, if you don't get all the vehicles in time, you don't actually trigger the ending of the mission properly, and it's impossible to get an S rank because there's just not enough points to go around unless you're like super perfect. Basically, what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be doing a little bit of a complex strategy here, using my tank to block the road. And the tank blocks the road so that cars can't get by it, but other tanks can shoot at it and explode it. The idea is that the tank's going to block them, and as they're blocked and can't get by, before they go and inspect it or before they start shooting at the tank that's in the way, you can sneak up behind them and then photon extract the tanks out without having to have much of an issue. Now, I also parked my horse right in the middle of the road, and it's basically like a 2-stage roadblock. The car will slow down, honk at the horse will move, and then the tank comes by and it stops at the tank you put in the road. So as you can see here, I waited 5 minutes already just to get to the very first time you actually do anything. One of the tanks will roll by. You'll notice that he'll come by here. I'm on the cliff side, which is my favorite spot because it's really easy to jump down. He's going to honk at my horse is going to move, and I can photon extract him before he even continues. If my horse moved and I wasn't able to photon extract him before he started moving again, he would just end up hitting my tank, and then he would sit there for about 5-10 seconds before he decided to shoot at my tank to try to block, try to get him off the road and take care of that. And this is basically what we're going to do for the entire mission. Now, like I said, we have to get all 7 of the main targets. There's also 2 extra targets that come by. One of them is coming on right here on my screen. It's the green target. There's a prisoner. That's an extra target, and that vehicle doesn't count as one of the main targets. So you will need to eliminate all 7. Here I'm going to wait for another about minute or so, and there are boxes in the road. The boxes will only slow down the smaller cars. The tanks will roll right over the boxes and not worry about them. You can also park your horse in the road to block this car if you so desire. And all you want to do to this car is sneak up behind it, try to avoid any type of reflex or combat alert. It's very essential that you try your best to avoid combat alerts and reflex sightings if possible. Although I did end up getting one, it's almost fatal if you get 2 of them because you just can't get enough points. Knock these 2 guys out and then exfiltrate the prisoner. If you don't have time to exfiltrate the prisoner because the other vehicle's creeping up on you, that's totally cool. Just make sure you leave these guys, get the other tank that's rolling in from the other side, and make sure you take care of it and come back to this side to exfiltrate this prisoner out of this car. Now, for whatever reason, all my enemies have like riot shields and helmets and flashlights because I've been playing a lot at night and getting a lot of headshots, and the game adapts to your playstyle, so that's why all my enemies are they seem like higher ranked and stuff. So now that I've taken care of these 2 enemies, I'm going to photon extract the car out, but because I noticed how close the tank was to the other side, I'm actually going to run back to this side to take care of this tank before I photon extract the other 2 guys out, because I don't want that tank to do too much damage to the one I'm using in my roadblock. Now, if you're fast enough, quick enough, and you kind of plan ahead far enough, your tank that's in the road shouldn't take any damage. However, if it does, that's totally fine. It can even explode. Just make sure you pull up your iDroid and drop in another vehicle of some sort into the road. It can be another tank, or it can be a smaller vehicle. If you're near the end of the mission, you won't really need a really tough vehicle. You'll just need a smaller one to block the road, just to give you a little extra time and buy you some extra time. So now you can see we're 7 minutes left in the mission. So to get to this point, we've already been playing for like 8 minutes, and there's going to be a whole bunch of more waiting. Obviously, you want to clear these 2 guys off the road that I left from before, because as an enemy comes by and he sees them on the ground, he'll stop to inspect them and then possibly alert people. So that's all we're going to do. Now we're going to come back to my favorite spot and wait on the cliffside, and we're going to repeat the process that I did before. I'm going to have my horse there, wait for this tank to come by, and hop on behind it and Photon extract this tank. If you want, you can do this exact same method without the cargo extract, but you'll need a lot of C4s and a lot of anti-tank mines, and every couple minutes you'll need to ask for a supply drop to refill all of your ammo, or else you just won't have enough. So it is quite difficult to do this without the extraction method that I'm showing you on screen. So now we're going to wait to this other side again here, and you'll see that there's some stuff coming. There's certain trucks that don't really count towards the main objective, the 7 that you need to eliminate so that you can trigger the remainder of the tanks that stop by at the end of the mission. But yeah, I'll join you guys back up in about a minute or so.
Enemy presence detected. The map has been updated.
Boss, we have new targets. Check your iDroid for the details.
The map has been updated. Enemy presence detected. The map has been updated.
Now, because I was a little bit slow with that first vehicle and didn't set up my boxes far enough up the road, this tank came by and destroyed my tank roadblock, which is okay. After it destroys your roadblock, it'll sit there for a couple seconds and kind of decide whether it should go forward or not, and you'll have enough time to extract it. Just make sure you're quick and stealthy about it. And if your tank does go out, feel free to just use a supply drop and drop a small vehicle in the middle of the road if you don't want to waste another one of your tanks, and they're precious to you. Now, after that, you'll see that my vehicle does come in, and then at the very end, if you're camping right where I am in this mission, in the last 30 seconds, there will be 2 tanks that come by this area. Now, you will need to destroy both of them, and you need to make sure you destroy both of them before the timer runs out, or else the timer runs out and then the other enemies won't spawn in at the end of the mission. Now, I'm going to be laying down anti-tank mines and C4. You don't need these, but they're helpful. You can just do it with your own C4, or you can do it with anti-tank mines, which help because they'll explode the C4 for you when the first tank rolls over them. Now, one note I'm going to make that you should maybe consider changing from my video is to place that first pair of C4 higher up the road. The tanks come in, but they're a little bit like separated, and when the first tank explodes, the second tank will stop in the middle of the road and just wait there. What you want is you want the second tank to be ahead of you so that you can hit it in the back after it stops. Because my anti-tank mines and my C4, the first little group of them, it's so close to the corner, the second tank ends up stopping in front of this cliff instead of behind it, so I actually have to shoot it from the front with my grenade launcher. Now, because I end up shooting it from the front and I'm not quick enough on the reflex, I end up getting a combat alert. If you make a quick move with that grenade launcher and you just jump out, it'll actually kill that tank fast enough for you not to get a combat alert. But as you'll see here on my screen, I get noticed by the tank, which is fine. If you're really fast, like I said, you can destroy the tank as it notices you, but you won't come out of the alert or the reflex, which means you won't get an alert. So what you want is, I actually wanted this tank to be ahead of me so that I could shoot it from behind so it wouldn't notice me. But like I said, my C4 roadblock was a little bit too kind of close to the curve. Anyways, I destroyed the second tank with a few seconds to spare, And once you destroy that 7th tank, the timer will come down to 0, and you can exfiltrate. But if you exfiltrate at this point, you won't score enough points to get an S rank unless you got a perfect stealth, no kills, no alerts run, which is very hard. If you were able to get that tank that I just got there without a single enemy combat alert, you might be able to get an S rank just barely by like a couple thousand. So now, as soon as that timer reached 0 and I'm told that I can exfiltrate, you'll notice that a whole bunch of new enemies spawn on your map. There's going to be a total of 4 of them. And what you've noticed is that I called in my support chopper to pick me up. But I actually did this so that it would fight the gunship that's in the air and coming to my location. I don't actually want to exfiltrate until later. So as you'll see, my gunship's coming in and the other gunship is flying around. Once my gunship reaches the LZ, it'll start firing at the other gunship, assuming you have any type of upgrades on it that have a gun on them, which you should have by this point in the game. And you'll notice my gunship shooting the other gunship's exploding. That's one more enemy, bringing me to a total of 8. Now, to get enough points to easily get an S rank, you probably want to get to 9, 10, or 11. I'm going to be doing 9 because I didn't do that poorly on the rest of the mission, so I knew I'd have enough points. But if you got like a lot of combat alerts and you got spotted by a lot of the tanks, you might have a lower score, and you might want to consider getting the 11th and 10th tank before you exfiltrate. At this point, you've been doing the mission so long that it doesn't really matter. Your time bonus is going to be less than 10,000 regardless of how fast you do this mission. And at this point, all there is to do is I've dismissed my helicopter so that it doesn't get shot down by the tank because you lose some money and points. And there's going to be a tank that's going to be rolling in. This last tank that I'm going to be taking out does not roll in the same position all the previous tanks rolled in. It doesn't use the road. It uses like an open field. And you're just going to want to sneak up behind it, use the full-on extraction on that tank, giving you 9 out of 11 of the total enemies, plus the prisoners and the extra cargo truck that don't count towards the timers and the clickers. The counters rather, and at that point just extract the mission and you should have over 130,000, which is needed for the S rank. If you did it flawlessly with no stealth, with perfect stealth, no kills, you get 0 combat alerts, no reflex, and all of that jazz, you'll get an extra 40,000 points, which is useful but not necessary. As you'll see, I got a little bit over the 130 you need without doing too much extra. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully this was helpful in helping you complete the hardest, in my opinion, S rank in the game from what I've played, and I'm a very far way through the game right now. Thank you for watching, and hopefully I see you next time in episode 10. Peace!
Please landing zone confirmed.
Roger. This is B Squad. Arriving shortly at LZ. This is B Squad. Have arrived at LZ. Will stand by. Gaining altitude.
Development project has been added.
Amazing. Mission complete.